Hello,
Hello,
Anant.
Ed. Hey,
Hey.
welcome to the last podcast of August, and then we'll have quite a few running between now and end of the year. Ed,
Yeah, we actually seem to have knock on wood. We've gotten our act together and have a bunch of great topics and guests and an actual schedule, which I think you are aware of, Anant. So you'll mention. I didn't pay attention to when we set the future dates, but um, yeah, we are back and we've got a really great episode lined up and. We'll be bringing our guest on in a bit, but first, as we always do, we're going to talk about a few of the interesting things that we've been seeing in the world of AI and of technology. And so this first one was really interesting, and we'll get into why in a couple of areas, but um, I think you saw this one or not. This experiment that was recently done at MIT that was about giving a swarm of agents basically um, a persistent world and having the agents basically occupy that, and they saw a whole bunch of interesting behavior.
yeah, I saw that. I saw that. I've been focusing a bit more on Agent Swarm and OpenAI and Hugging Face thing, and so this had kind of I looked at it from the side. But go ahead. Let's talk a
Well,
bit about this one.
so this is the interesting thing, and we're going to talk more about swarms from security and Hugging Face standpoint, I think, in our next episode. But
Yes.
um, this is the same dynamic because in Hugging Face it was about 1,200 agents. In this case. They actually brought together. Actually, I was reading the summary from the professor that did it on
It was an
X.
order of magnitude more, right? If I recall correctly.
Yes, yeah, and the key thing here is that the same behavior in this case was observed, which was um, basically ungoverned self-differentiation. So in this case, the agents split into multiple roles: explorers, builders, caretakers, and coordinators, and in sort of an emergent organizational capacity. And they actually started to create mechanisms for essentially recording group and individual memory and actually started to construct basically cultural constructs. And so this is super interesting. This is, this whole agent swarm behavior um, is something that is, as we saw in the case of Hugging Face, um, is emergent. Like even if you don't explicitly go and say, "Let me build an agent swarm," the agents will do this if given enough latitude. In the MIT experiment, they actually did it deliberately and saw just how far it could go. So it's really exciting stuff, and I think we're going to see a lot more incidents of it. But would encourage people to check it out. One of the researchers, Marcus Buehler, did a set of tweets on it. This was all late last week, I believe, Friday, and really fascinating reading. And more to the point, as I said, with to me, that connection to the Hugging Face stuff, which we'll talk about in more detail. But the key piece is this is not isolated behavior. This is what agent swarms do. And whether it's for the purposes of just running an experiment, building a task, task completion, whatever it might be, it seems to be a property of or at least a very rapidly emerging behavior when you start to put these things together. So I find it fascinating. I think we're gonna spend a lot more
Yeah. Oh
time
my
on
God.
agent
Yeah. No.
swarms.
This absolutely, and obviously its implications in security is what we touch
Well, I think the security
in our
pieces
next
will, yeah. Well, I mean,
in an
security is a natural extension because these are these are behaviors that are unpredictable from the initiator. In these cases, this was not, although in the MIT case they did prompt, did create this multi-agent world for them to sit in, but the communications behaviors were unscripted.
Yes. And I no, exactly. And then I mean, what's the gap between this and emergent behaviors, as you talked about, or as the Economist had, I think in last week, whether AI will develop consciousness. But we are kind of moving towards certain things where increasingly it's difficult to distinguish between what machines are doing and what humans would have done, right? And this is kind of a great example of that. And I think that uh, s- uh, uh, I think it just behooves all of us who are in kind of the enterprise context to understand that that there are certain things, as you have more and more of these agents working against more and more powerful models, certain unintended consequences will happen, and you've got to kind of go in with eyes wide open.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's the key piece on that, is that this behavior can emerge, agent to agent communications can emerge in actual enterprise use cases, without prompting. This creating subagents is a property of most of the agentic tools that people are using, and breaking a job into multiple parts that can be run in parallel is just a natural technique. It's something that humans would do when they're figuring out how to do a project, and agents will do it at a much higher level of efficiency. And so I think
Absolutely.
we're definitely going to see a lot of that. And speaking of that, one of the other interesting things, of course, was that related to it, that may start to get more enterprises inadvertently into this, is that OpenClaw 2.0 was released as well. So
Yeah,
all the
I
more
saw that.
opportunities for.
Okay, no, no. But hey, it's positive mixed with caution, and we've got to kind of think these things through. Okay, I've got a topic that I read through again. It is in preparation of welcoming our speaker too. But before that, um, I understood last week that our second favorite podcast after this, uh, context win- uh, after context window, the Hard Fork podcast is ending, and it's bad news because it kind of keeps me occupied and entertained, and we really enjoyed it. But it's also good news that our competition is now less, and therefore more and more people will come to our stuff. That's the way I kind of viewed it. Okay, so
Yes, you've tried the best. Now try the rest.
you have tried the rest, now try the best, is the way I would put it. Is the way I would put it. Uh, so there have been some fantastic sets of articles on education, and universities can't detect AI cheaters and teachers are burning out, right? And there's been a lot of interesting studies out there. We're going to get into that. But I want to kind of remind some of the folks on some fantastic piece of work that was done by a professor, Robert Serrano at Brown University, who taught econ. I never did econ, but I like econ in sense of it's kind of mathematical. I never understood accounting, but at least econ was you could do integrations and differentiations, and I really liked it. But when people were given take-home exams, they had like 90 plus percentage pass, and when they did kind of at-home exam, sorry, in-class exam, that same thing fell to 60%, right? And therefore his conclusion was everybody is cheating, and of course there's a complications. Brown is set up to study 1% cheating, not the entire class cheating and all that, so we'll not get into that. But I love a quote from him which says that, look, we have got to kind of get ahead of this because we cannot choose to become idiots. Okay, and I love that. And so with that, I want to kind of introduce our guest. Okay, uh, Anant, my namesake, uh, Anant Agarwal, for those of you who can pronounce Indian names, to be distinguished from Anant Jhingran, or Anant J for you, Ed, and Anant A. Uh, is a professor at MIT, but also extremely well known to do startups in higher ed. He was deeply involved with edX, did a few other things, and now is doing something called Grady. So we are going to get into a lot of discussions with respect to how AI is positively and negatively impacting studies and educations, and how do we kind of navigate through this thing. I'm just reminded, Anant, of Anant A, that my professor, Mike Stonebreaker, has said that, look, he will think twice before recommending computer science as a piece of education for the younger generation. I think is absolutely wrong. I can say that now that I've gotten my PhD degree, so you can't do anything against me. But welcome, Anant.
Thank you, Anant J and Ed. It's fantastic to be here and really enjoyed your conversation leading up to this.
Okay, fantastic. So tell us a bit about Anant. How did you kind of get to, what was your journey that led you into higher ed through technology to now this new startup that you're doing?
So we founded edX about 15 years ago, along with Harvard and MIT, where edX was built to democratize education, where learning could be done by anybody anywhere. And today we have over 100 million learners in the edX network learning on edX from some of the top professors and top institutions all over the world. In edX, in recent years, I've been focusing more and more on how we can use AI to improving all aspects of teaching and learning. And things are moving incredibly fast. And most recently, what fascinated me was how AI can help people do their work better, and the whole world, all sorts of employment is moving in the direction of helping people, employees at companies and others, learn about AI so that they can do their job better. So suddenly, from learning how to do stuff like learning math or learning how to write a piece of code, suddenly all my learning has to become meta, meta learning, where now I have to figure out how to write an agent that can go and do the job for me. And as in your pre-podcast, you talked about how I may have to code up a swarm of agents to go and do a large set of coordinated tasks for me. And in this environment, it's become incredibly challenging for companies and universities alike. And how do we teach people how to work and how to become better in this agentic AI world? How do we assess people? How do we grade people? How do we interview people? Because here, it's not just looking at the final output. You now have to assess the process of doing the work, because with the right prompts, everybody can likely have the same output. But the question is, how do you work with AI? Do you use a lot of tokens? Do you do the whole piece of work in 10 minutes versus 6 hours? The whole process and how you do stuff begins to matter. And I've been with edX for 15 years. I was chief academic officer at 2U, a company that acquired edX for $800 million 5 years ago. And as I was working with AI and saw these things happening, some of my team members at edX pointed me to this company called Grady, founded by two professors who are absolutely brilliant, Pericles and Anastasios, who are professors at Rutgers and UI Chicago, MIT PhDs, Toronto PhDs, who are brilliant in algorithms and AI, and they had discovered a way.
They're Anand, they're good universities, but I think Berkeley is better. But okay, I'll leave it
These are, look, it doesn't matter what university you come from. It's these two guys have won in the past, won every single coding competition and math Olympiad in the world, and absolutely brilliant. And so they had figured out a way to assess AI work. They can assess people working with AI. They can assess the output of work. They can assess any university output, handwritten videos, images. They can assess and help improve people working with AI. And this was absolutely fascinating for me, because at edX we democratized learning, but here I thought was an opportunity where we could democratize AI work, where everybody could become better at working with AI. We could democratize teaching and assessing. And so this got really exciting for me. And when the opportunity came up and they asked me to serve as CEO of Grady, about a month ago, I switched from being at edX. I'm now senior advisor at edX, and now CEO at Grady. That's what excited me. The option to democratize skilling people on becoming better with working with AI agents, and with assessing and helping democratize teaching in this new era of AI.
Awesome. Hey, I'll hand it to you, Ed, but I want to just make one comment. Uh, you can't you can't take a student out of me, and you can't take a professor out of Anant A. So as you're preparing for this podcast, we both said, why don't we figure out if Anant J can actually learn AI, or or learn a specific task in AI and prove that he's learning. And so they gave me a task, and I completed that task, or at least I think I did, and I send it to them a week back, and I actually don't have a clue what I'm getting. I'm expecting that it anything better than F is great, but I don't know what's going to happen. So for those of you who are interested in it, wait till the end of the podcast, and I'll either smile at the end of it, or I'll say that is a very good learning thing. Thank you, professor, and then I'll go off and do something else. So I just wanted to kind of do that setup, and I'm looking forward to that grade because I have no idea what it is. Ed, on to you.
Yeah, well, so one of the things, yeah, I'm interested in hearing about
Yeah, you were too
Anant's
much of a chicken
past
to
experience.
participate. It should have been a competition between us.
Yes, exactly,
And
exactly. I know better than to bet against you on academic
no, but yeah,
topics.
exactly. It would have been relative grading is the
Although
same.
now I know from your previous statement that I probably beat you on accounting and econ topics. I actually did quite well in those. But yeah, I mean, one of the things that I really was very interested in talking to you about now is this. Um, you know, I think this experience that we are all having professionally with ChatGPT or Claude or what have you is that um, you know this whole process of writing has been very transformed, and as I think back to my student days, I mean, learning how to think through writing was almost intrinsic to that. And so I'm curious, what happens now? You've done this calculator comparison, which makes sense, but talk about that a little bit.
Look, I'm a big fan of writing. I grew up in India, and writing and speaking, and growing up, the humanities were they're not really focused on, and I was a terrible writer. I think I can talk, and fortunately for me, but terrible writer. I went to IIT in Madras. Writing again was not focused on. I come to the U.S. and I got my butt kicked. I was a John Hennessy student, and my writing would come back, papers and so on would come back with red ink, like smeared all over. I was a horrible writer. So I took several writing courses at Stanford when I was there, and I can tell you that writing is just an incredible thing. Writing is a way to listen to your soul. That's what I like to say. If you want to listen to your soul, then write what you're thinking. With AI, what has happened is it's like the calculator, but turbocharged. When the calculator came out in the mid '70s, I remember everybody was in a tizzy about what the calculator was going to do to math skills. Everybody said, "Oh my God, we're going to have generations and generations of people coming out that are not going to do any math." But we survived it, and the way we survived it was that although the calculator democratized numeracy, the way we survived it was that teachers and professors in classrooms made sure that students first understood how to do mental math. They learned the basics of mathematics and so on, and ultimately used calculators in more advanced classes, but they still learned the basic skills. I was still forced by my teachers to learn mathematical tables. I have horrible memory, so I could barely get to like 15 or 16. But I had people in my class who could go up to 30 times 30 tables of 30. But the point here is that even though the calculator was there, we were forced to do mental math so that numeracy and the basic concepts of size and numbers is sort of entrenched in our brain, even though calculators came out, and that can help us as a tool. Same way with AI. AI is fast democratizing literacy. It can help you write. What we need to make sure as teachers and others that people still learn how to write, the basic writing skills, and my hope is that parents and students understand that if they do not learn how to write, they are going to be challenged as humans. And frankly, I believe humans are people that can think and write and talk. And if I don't have the basic skills of writing and speaking and listening, it's not clear to me what would distinguish a human from a piece of granite. and, so, and so I think it's very critical for all of us to learn how to write and to talk and to read. Those skills are really important. So it's really important for teachers to make sure and for students to make sure that they're learning the basic skills. But once they've learned the basic skills, I think it's perfectly okay, just like with the calculator, to use it later on in life or in more advanced places of courses to help them become even better writers. And so, I think the art of thinking and writing is very, very critical. But I think once you mastered it, once you can do the basic stuff, it's still important to learn how to use AI to do even better at what you're doing, just like with the calculator.
Is that going to be? First of all, I agree with you that piece, and I think we see this across most uses of AI, which is that understanding the fundamentals. I mean, obviously, Anant Jay and I spend a lot of time using agentic coding, and proficiency in coding and architecture results in getting greatly superior output from an agentic tool than if you don't have those. And I would imagine it's directly similar in really anything where both the quality of the input as well as the ability to evaluate the output. However, for the student who is in a different situation, which is that they're developing exercising muscles, mental muscles, if you will. But is there a path? How do they do that? I mean, I think I agree with you directionally, but is this how will it? Are the rules written? Do people know how to do this?
Look, the simple example I give is just go back to the calculator. How did teachers and others manage that? As a professor, I teach several courses at MIT, and one of them is a course on circuits and electronics. And there, I tell students you can use a calculator, but you cannot use a graphing calculator because I need you to get the intuition of how things look on being able to rapidly sketch what the discharge curve of a capacitor looks like.
Right.
So I wouldn't let you use a graphing calculator. So I think we can set up basic rules. Similarly, in the age of AI, I think we need to show some examples and help people learn why understanding the basics is important. So listen, let me do a quick little example. So, of course, I can go and go to Gemini or Claude or ChatGPT and say, hey, look, create me a piece of code that will sort a bunch of numbers. I'll get a piece of code. And so my ability to code up a piece of Python or in my age, it was C++. And I actually go back all the way to assembly for Intel's 8080 in 1977. But the point is that coding as a skill is less important, but thinking, the ability to think and reason is still so incredibly important. Going to the sorting example, I still need to understand algorithms. I need to understand how the time for sorting scales with a set of numbers. I need to understand constant factors. I need to understand what are the kinds of numbers I'm going to get. I still need to understand what is the metric I'm using to sort a bunch of things. There's a whole bunch of things I still need to understand. If all I do is go and tell, Claude Code or whatever, hey, produce me a routine that will sort, I'm going to get a piece of something and I have no idea what it does. But I need to understand sorting well enough to be able to tell Claude Code, hey, look, It's almost like reverse engineering. Once I understand sorting, I'm almost reverse engineering it to help Claude do a better job for me. I'll need to say, hey, look, I expect my data sets to be in the billions or millions. Or if the data set is only in the six or sevens, I'll need to say, hey, look, I really need you to optimize the constant factor. And or if the data set is going to keep changing, I'm going to say, hey, look, I need to be able to insert and extract numbers really, really quickly in constant time, or in certain, there's a whole bunch of things that I need to specify. And today we call it prompt engineering, but I need to specify and guide my LLM so that I get what I need. But to do all of that, I need to think. I just cannot say, hey, give me a routine that sorts a bunch of numbers. I'm going to get garbage. It's not going to help me.
No, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, yeah. Drawing back to the first thing, I totally agree with kind of writing. I had a similar story. You had a story with Hennessy. I had a story with Mike Stonebreaker, uh, who would just kind of completely redline my write-ups because you're exactly right. We were taught concepts in India, but not taught writing. He would even fixate on a space after a stop sign, and it's clearly it's important. Of course, he was at that time saying two spaces after a stop sign, but Slate came out and said that's a wasted space and it should be one space after a stop sign. But I totally
Mike's a good friend of mine. I'm going to go remind him and say if he still believes in two spaces versus one space.
yeah, yeah, exactly. You should definitely remind him. Maybe we'll get him on this podcast too. But the point I'm trying to make though is Ed's point, which is that it is true that availability of the tools makes people who want to take a fast path through education, okay, to be uh, easier, etc., etc. And the question that Anant you have to decide as a professor is whether you're trying to do kind of a K-shaped uh, class where there are people who are motivated enough and they are the ones who will kind of win later on in life, or whether you want everybody to actually rise, and what is the basic thing that you've got to do. I guess you've got to try and get everybody to rise, but maybe an opposite is also true, which is to kind of put energy on people who are actually doing the right thing and make them super, as opposed to kind of continuously beat up on the people who are not motivated enough.
I think this goes back to parents and teachers and all of us. I think we need to. Our whole society has gotten into the bad habit of focusing on output. With tests and so on, we look at a single number. It's all about the output. But I think what AI is showing us is that the process of how you do work with stuff, the process of how you work with AI, the process of how you think, the process of how you do stuff is so much more important than just a piece of output. We have to train our young children growing up, whether in homes or schools, that they need to learn for learning's sake. They need to read because it's important to read. They need to, it's not like, they need to understand that if they just want to get by with cheating and just getting someone else to do the work for them, they will simply be much less of a human being. And the example I use when people did mental math, they said, my kids did the same thing. They said, why do I need to learn mental math? Why are you when my kids would drive around with my kids to drop them off in various places, we would be very often doing mental math, in the car. I sort of taught them insertion, sort, and so on when they were very young without them knowing about sort algorithms.
Insertion sort is n square. That's terrible.
No, no, but the point is to understand the concept of sorting, and then from there we went to log methods by doing divide and sort of dividing into halves and quarters and stuff. But the point is that it's really important for kids to learn that mental math is important. And the way I motivated them was that I said, look, if if for the rest of your life you are going to give written responses to people, yeah, you could cheat for the rest of your life. However, A lot of times you're going to be in conversations with people. And when you're in conversations with people talking about business or talking about engineering or talking about life or any of these things, you need to do mental math. You cannot pull out a, if I'm having an argument with Anant J or with Ed Anuff, it's a heated argument. I'm not going to go very far if I'm pulling out a calculator and punching in numbers, trying to
Yes.
figure out an answer. If I can do mental math fast, I'm going to win the argument. If I can do mental math faster than you can, and so that finally bought them over. We have to show them examples where there are going to be many parts of life where understanding basic writing and speaking and thinking are going to be really important to them, and just getting by looking at outputs and cheating is not going to get them anywhere.
I think that's true. I mean, honestly, I think that your part about defining that, what it means I think we're going to get into a better definition of what it means to be human, not what it means to be human from a definition of is it human or isn't, but what the intrinsic values that we think are important, and whether it is to be able to have a conversation that has basic facilities around math, or whether it is to be able to have a conversation on the facts without needing to look everything up, or what have you. But these are going to be, I think, these are not going to be black and white things. They're going to be a facility or a measurement of really just sort of how actualized you are in your personhood. The analogy, the most interesting thing I keep coming back to on this is not out of necessarily the academic education, but actually it's interesting, completely different world of because I'm getting on in years. I've recently started going to the gym and working with a trainer, and I don't do that because of you need to learn this because of your job, right? And obviously everything literally in the gym that you do, a machine today can do better, right? But it's because you do it for better health and well-being. And the idea is not just, well, it's maximum efficiency, I can ask ChatGPT how to do this. It's literally exercising the muscles. And I think that this point, because you use the word exercising a number of places and the word training a number of places, and I think that it's that same basic idea. And these are values that we have to get to people, that learning is a form of exercising, mental exercising, that yes, ChatGPT might do better, but just the same way that your car can get you goes faster than you'll ever run, doesn't mean that you won't ride your bike or
we still learn how
yes,
to walk, and the brain is
right,
a muscle. Absolutely.
exactly.
And to be clear, at Grady, along with assessing AI work and all of the stuff, we also have a cheating detection tool.
Yeah.
We have a couple of technologies that can detect cheating. We can. But the reason I'm not dwelling on it is that it misses the point. But people learn better when they're intrinsically motivated. It's the carrot and stick. People need to believe that they need to exercise that muscle, and they need to do it because it's good for them. It's not because someone's watching over them and can detect when they're cheating. I think that's why that motivating them to learn better, to read better, to write better, to think better, that is so critical.
So awesome. So Anand, let's shift over to learning AI as opposed to learning through AI, right? We've just right now talked about it, but let's shift. So there, we have been going around and saying that people won't lose their jobs to AI. They will lose to the jobs if they don't use AI, okay, and they lose to the people who use AI, right? And I think it's a very good construct, which says that AI is now becoming an intrinsic tool for you to actually succeed. So let's kind of shift a bit from, therefore, what does it mean about learning to use AI, okay, and what have you observed, and how would you train people, and how would you test whether they're actually advancing up kind of an AI skills ladder?
First of all, I want to point out that, again, this is not new. uh, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we talked about computational thinking. But if you had a job and somebody else had a job, and if that other person had better computational thinking skills than you did, they would displace you in their job. So it wasn't that computers were displacing you; it was people that could were more computationally skilled than you were that would displace you. So AI is the next. Think of it as when computers came, and now it's AI, and so people are more AI fluent. If someone is more AI fluent than you are, they may displace you from your job. And so there, it becomes really important for people to upskill in how they use AI. In the past, in the past, let's say my job is to read emails. Let's say I'm in a procurement department. My job is to read emails from customers, and then if and respond to customers based on if the shipment was on track, respond to them. If it's not on track, put a message in Slack saying, "Hey, look," and escalate to somebody else. But now that same person in procurement is not doing the job. They're being expected to write an agent to do the job for them.
Yes.
And so and you can do that. So that's where Grady comes in. So first of all, we have created assignments that can be given to people that can help them become better at AI. In fact, the example I gave you for procurement is one such example for someone working in a company. It could be for software development. It could be for someone in sales, someone in marketing. A marketing task might be, previously you'd need a team of engineers to build you a website. Now you can agentic AI or vibe code a website yourself. And so marketing people are expected to do that. Product managers, they're expected to be able to use AI to create wireframes. So it doesn't matter what job you have, every job needs to, you need to be facile in your ability to use AI. So the upskilling is, how do you work with AI? How do you understand how to use AI, create agents? How do you write code? How do you prompt engineer? These are all very important skills. So what Grady helps with is that we can help people upskill in the use of AI and become better at it. So in the case of the person who was needing to code up an agent, we could actually watch that person. We use a screen recording. So as the person is working with AI, we can take a screen recording, and we can assess how well that person was able to create the right kind of agent. We can assess, did they prompt well? We can assess, did they iterate well? We can assess whether how expensive was their process. We can assess, and in more than assessment, we provide very detailed feedback to the employee as to how they could do better. So in that sense, you can think of Grady as not just a grading tool, but we are a work amplification tool. We can help employees simply become better at how they use AI in their work. And doesn't matter what field. Software engineering is the most advanced today in terms of using AI, but very soon, every department, marketing, HR, product, accounting, everybody will be expected to be using AI. And so in that sense, we can assess and improve the AI fluency of employees. That's what Grady does today.
Awesome. Hey, so Anand, I have an observation here that uh, the AI tools themselves are changing really, really rapidly, right? And therefore, what is equally important is not just how you can create agents today based on the current set of tools, but a process of learning and and adapting to the changing landscape, right? I mean, physics hasn't changed. I mean, it has a bit, right? But it hasn't changed that much, right? But this is changing really, really rapidly. So you also have to learn a skill, which is adaptation, not just around this,
Yes.
right? So how would you think about it? Because once a student is done, is done. But I guess what you'd want is you want her to go through a set of things spread over a few months or a year, where the tools that she starts with and the tools that she uses at the end of 1 year are completely different, right?
Totally.
And to see
Totally agree.
whether that adaptation skill set is also being built.
Absolutely. There used to be a time, 100 years ago, where, when people worked in factories, you learned a skill, and you spent the rest of your life, exercising that skill, and that's it. You're at a job for 20 or 30 years, and then you retired. You did the same thing again and again for 20 years. But today, it's completely changed. I mean, everything is changing so fast and so dynamically, particularly AI. The tools, how you use the tools, the prowess of AI is changing almost monthly, daily, so that you cannot learn a skill and then sit down and say, okay, now I can go on for 20 years. No, you learn a skill and you can go on for maybe 3 weeks before something new comes up. And so this whole process of upskilling and reskilling needs to be in the context of work and needs to become continuous. You need to be continuously learning. I think gone are the days when you could go get a degree after 4 years of learning and then not learn anymore for the rest of your life. That's called a dinosaur. You have to be learning and upskilling continuously in this age of AI. And so one of the things we've thought about is we've thought about a way in which our AI agents are monitoring all the improvements happening in AI and continuously creating a set of evolving assignments and evolving learning pieces that we give users. And the feedback we give users continually evolves to what the latest is available in AI. So, but people can need to continuously adapt and continuously evolve, and we can do that, and we can use AI to help us do that, and that's what we are into.
Awesome. I'll hand it to Ed, but Arvind, our CEO, is quoted that, look, previously the half life of skills was 30 years, right? Now it is 6 or 7, and therefore, even at that level, forget about, you probably have to reskill at least 4 times or 5 times in your career, right? So that kind of task of reskilling, this attitude of reskilling or relearning or continuously learning, I think is one of the intrinsic implications of AI.
Exactly. And frankly, in school, kids need to be taught how to learn continuously and to be able to learn online. Because once you start working, it's very hard for you to go back to a university campus and spend 3 years learning. You can't do that. If you have two kids, my youngest is screaming for food. No way I'm going to go to campus and spend 6 hours sitting in a lecture hall. So I have to be able to learn online. I have to be able to learn in the process of work, and even as the half life of each skill is diminishing, and for some skills, like how to write a little Python program to do something, almost going to zero.
Hey, Ed, a question from you because I want to make sure that 5 minutes are left for Anant to act professorial towards me.
Well, definitely. No, so I think one of the things that I think we spent a lot of time talking about from the student's perspective, and I think that makes I think honestly that's probably if my educational experience and Anant's and yours, everybody to some degree, I think for people, a lot of that has to be self-initiative, and to some degree we have to, if the student doesn't understand that they're only cheating themselves, even though it sounds like a cliche, then there's not much that you can do. We can detect cheating and so on, and it sounds like you've got good technology for that. But what's the flip side? So if this is and we spoke a little bit for we just mentioned sort of some pieces related to this in terms of saying people's but how the top down perspective, but how do the managers, and whether both in enterprise, because obviously we're talking to an enterprise audience, or the leaders in education, what do they need to do? What if you want to take it from either of those directions, how do I have, if I'm an enterprise manager, what do I need to do either for the people I'm hiring or my existing workforce, rather than just telling people be better at this, be better at this? The change can't just be pushed down. It obviously applies to everyone.
I think it's not just about outputs anymore. It's about as people, managers look to recruit and managers look to work with their own team. It's about how do I upskill them to be better working with AI. And there you have to watch the process. It's not enough to just look at the output. So, for example, if I go get my blood drawn, and 1,000 nurses draw my blood, clearly every nurse will have the same vial of 3 cc's of blood at the end. But one nurse could have left a pool of blood under my arm. Another nurse could have jabbed me, jabbed a vein. A third nurse could have poked me 20 times. So really, it's a process of how people work with AI that suddenly becomes important, and not just what the output is. And so here, uh, uh, we would recommend to enterprise managers, one, when they interview people, to somehow bring into the interview process how they can work with AI, and to give them an assignment. So rather than ask them questions about what they know, they need to assess them on what they can do. And rather than watch every employee doing that, so we are working with one organization that is beginning to use us in the interview process. So we can watch people working on an assignment in the interview process, and we can assess them and help the employer figure out who they should be hiring. Similarly, for people who are already in their teams, and it doesn't matter what the area is, it could be people in sales, could be in coding, could be in systems design, product management, software, applications engineering, doesn't matter what. Everybody needs to learn how to work with AI there, and managers want to upskill their people to be even better at using AI. And so there, we can help them upskill their team and become better at using AI. I was talking to a university professor last week, and they said, it's not just about students, it's about my own team. They're in learning design, and they wanted to upskill their team members on how to be better at using AI to do a better job at learning. And we're working with them on helping them improve their team members and how to use AI to do a better job with creating content and things like that. Managers will need to very quickly upskill their people on how to use AI better. And frankly, companies that can very, very quickly have an AI fluent workforce are those companies that will really rise up, and those companies that are slow to get an AI fluent workforce will be left in the exhaust of the dust of companies that didn't survive.
Oh, that's an awesome point. I totally agree. I mean, I would strongly encourage people to go take a look at Grady and see whether something like Grady is the way that masses of people, a large chunk of the employees get upskilled. Okay, we are running out of time, so we better get to my grade, Anant. So why don't I just set
Yes.
up what the task was? So as Anante has pointed out, they don't want to just look at the output, because I mean at some point in time AI can you can shut your eyes, go for coffee, and AI would do the answer, or you could put in a beads loop and it will kind of keep iterating through it. So the task was very, very specific. We were given an API, and we had to kind of find errors in it and everything else, but we were not allowed to kind of short circuit the path and just get to the answer by just outsourcing everything. So at every stage, it was really kind of get to that kind of thinking, critical thing. What is the problem in setup? What's the problem in posts? What's the problem in authentication? How do you kind of add it and everything else? So what I really loved about it was the fact that even though the task was in the end, the task was reasonably simple: fix APIs and then add certain features to it. But the process around it, in terms of kind of forcing me to kind of not short circuit certain things, was really, really fascinating. I know I goofed up, but Anant, why don't you tell me how I did and what I could have done better?
Sure. So first of all, the bottom line is, Anand, this is the drum roll, please. So the big,
Ta-da!
so your grade was 83,
Okay.
and we've been told that Grady grades tend to be on the tougher side, and
Ah.
so we have a way of adjusting leniency. So this was the default.
B plus.
I would say
That's a B minus, Anant.
Oh
I
my
would say
God! I haven't gotten B grades.
in my courses, the median would be around 70, and this would be like a sigma
Sigma.
above. So I would say
Possibly.
this would be a borderline A B. So the task was, as Anand said, it was 83. the task, as Anand said, was the job was to fix a build process with the GitHub repo and figure out what the problem was. The build was not working correctly, and so the task was go fix the build. And so Grady evaluated that process based on a screen recording that Anant the tool creates, and Anant J did a terrific job with setting up the environment and catching what the issue was and things like that. And there were several issues. He also caught a subtle problem, which was the trap test, where there was a test that was a bad test. The test was testing something in the repo that was conflicting with the specification provided in the README file. So the test was wrong. And so Anant caught that the test was wrong. And so the test was inconsistent with the spec in the README file. So Anant could have automatically fixed the code to satisfy the test, and that would have been a disaster. If that's what he had done, he would probably have gotten a 40 or 50. But he caught it, and he identified that the test is wrong, and so but however, he got 83 because he actually did not go and fix that test to be consistent with the README file. He identified it, but did not go the extra mile. So one could argue that that maybe he didn't realize that he actually had to complete the project and get to a green build, and so that's why he lost some points. So all in all, great feedback. And so now, given this feedback, if an employee were to go and do this again, they would know how to fix all the issues and simply become better at working with builds and Git repos.
Awesome. No, if I'll be self-critical, I actually clearly I missed that completely. Okay, but there are two other things that I didn't do. And Ed, this is really very. So somewhere in their long set of instructions, which they instructed me to read fully, okay. But at the bottom of their instructions, they said, why don't you kind of set up a Claude.md to actually make sure that you have that right setup? And I've gotten very used to kind of interactive interactions with Claude, so I kind of completely ignored it. But the thing that I was telling somebody else, the place where I think, and Anand, maybe you want to add to it, is that I goofed up by not looking at the code at all after I had kind of fixed it. Okay, and this kind of lazy path through it must be right because it passes all tests as opposed to what lines have changed and where. I did look at it. I'm not saying that I didn't fully look at it, right? Is again something that I felt lousy about, and I kind of clearly said that clearly I'm not going to get an A plus. Thank you very much. But it was really a very fascinating exercise, Anant, to kind of. I knew that I would get to the end of the problem, but kind of forcing me to step back and say that, look, have you thought about this? Have you thought about it? Was something which I think is really important to go from using AI to outsource everything,
Yes.
to using AI to actually help us learn the process better.
I think that's absolutely right. And one other point, Anant, you mentioned our website is gradyai.com. The
Yes.
website, the AI fluency product we just talked about and discussed, is not on our website.
Oh, not yet. Okay.
It's not yet on the website. Our website still talks about and lists our regular university grading product for grading exams and providing feedback to students. But the AI fluency is a new system that we have built, and Anant is among the first people that have tried it out. And so welcome to our alpha world, Anant.
Awesome. Fantastic. Hey, Anant, thank you so much. It was just an absolutely fascinating conversation. I am glad that you tweaked uh, Grady to kind of not embarrass me in front of our fantastic audience.
No. This
So
was honest to goodness grading.
I deeply
Yes.
appreciate it, but we have to do a competition with Ed, and
I'm not sure after hearing about this. I think I'll let you be the guinea pig for it or not.
Well, we
no
can
no
do
no.
we can do all kinds of other projects too. Like for example,
Yes.
it could be write an essay to do something. We can grade that. It could
Yes.
be do a product design. Any
Yes.
project.
Well, now we know that I know Anant's weakness is accounting.
Oh, no, very good. Fantastic. Okay. Hey, Anant, thank you so much. Really, really fascinating. Good luck with Grady. And it's amazing how people who kind of teach also focus on the act of teaching, not just teaching the subject. And I think the world is a better off with people like you and Anastasio and your other co-founders. So thank you very much, folks.
Thank you so much. I had an absolute blast. Thank you for having me on your show, and I hope we get to chat some more in at a future time. Thank you all.
Thank you.
So Ed, what did you think? Ed? Oh, we seem to have lost Ed. Uh, okay, folks. So at least I can't hear Ed. Maybe Ed's speaking. Hey, Michelle, can you? He's frozen. Okay. So why don't we just end right now? We're going to have another conversation very soon. We've never done context window podcast this close to each other. But the podcast that we are going to do next is focused around security. We are going to have J.R. Rao, who is an IBM fellow, an absolute master at security. And obviously, all of you have been looking at what's happening with security and AI, but we'll not delve into just basic vanilla look. AI is going to actually expose security issues and all that. We're going to get into some really, really deep discussions. And we're going to have that very, very soon. So, folks, again, sorry for the glitch. Ed, you're back, I think.
I am back. I crashed. Technical difficulties there.
Okay, Ed, while you were gone, I spoke a bit about our next podcast. But if you have any comments about the conversation we had with Anant.
I thought it was a very good conversation. I think that we're very much in unexplored territory. I find myself agreeing with all of Anante's points in terms of the need to build these skills, the importance of being able to do things yourself, being able to, and also of course being able to use AI. I think that we have, I think, first of all, I think that a lot of this is going to require, I think it's going to be, I think we're going to have to figure it out over the next couple of years. I think that it's the AI keeps getting better. I think that particularly when we think about students, that the motivations are all over the place. Obviously, some people are very motivated to learn for its own sake. Some people are motivated for the purposes of being doing well in the job market. Some people are motivated just by getting the grade, and you're going to have this better and better AI that you can outsource whatever you choose to it, and then I think that the other question, this calculator thing. Look, we all, I think, all three of us were probably of the generation within a couple of years, plus or minus a couple of years, of when calculators and computers entered.
Yes. Casio for me, and then HP afterwards with its postfix notation.
I know postfix very well.
Push numbers on a stack and then put a plus. So it was just fascinating.
RPN, reverse Polish notation. And it's that was a 20-year process going from the 70s. I don't think it was till the 90s that the educational process had really incorporated the level of essentially of automation, that it, could you use a calculator? Now of course we have open book tests, we have calculators, we have people with laptops and such in education, and while during the testing process, and those are, and I think those are all fine. And then, but you're still going to be struggling against that alternative, which is, can't I just have ChatGPT do everything for me? And so I don't know the answer to that. And on the flip side piece of it, there's a whole set of things that we don't worry about at all, that probably if we went back, we're talking about things that went back, 50 years, 40 years in education. If we went back 100 years, there'd be a whole set of educational things that we would be laughing at, that people would be saying you need to be able to do.
Of course.
I don't know how to operate a slide rule or an abacus.
Slide rule, I could. I actually built.
You probably could. You probably could. Yes,
it's just absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
So I think that the way I take it, in fact, as I was doing this Grady exercise anyway, you and I kind of have a set of skills that we have built up over time. Some good, some not so good. But I think that the one thing that we have is kind of an intellectual curiosity to actually learn and understand and everything else. And I think that the way I was kind of doing that exercise was not so much on mechanically they're asking me to add a post in an API body. Okay, I kind of understand the post and API body, and I'm going to add an authentication thing around it. But I was kind of continuously thinking through what part of it is being done by me, what part is being done by AI. So I had that extra bit on, which was I'm trying to learn what the act of learning was. It's a very meta statement as I was kind of going through all of it. And I think that the way I would tell for all our audience, including for us and everybody else, is take kind of joy in learning. And if you take joy in learning, then you will actually roll with the punches and really come out extremely well on the other side.
Yeah, no, I think that's a safe bet. As I said, I think as we were going through this, and I was putting a lot of thought into it, which was, I find everything you just said, I would agree with, and so on. As I try to, and everything, all the Anant's points, I was just trying to do that flip side look at somebody who's at the other side of this journey, that who is just, it's very easy to simply push a button, and I think. Yeah. And I think a lot of that will happen, and I don't know what the consequence will be. It may not be. Obviously, a lot of the things that people told us, you should be able to do this, you should be able to do this, turned out not to be the case, and all of that. And it may, I think there may be a whole new set of skills that truly become that are truly what's important. It may be actually designing swarms is the meta challenge, not doing the modern equivalent of assembly language. Anyway,
awesome. Okay,
yes.
Fantastic. So really, really great, Ed. We are going to be back again very soon.
We are. We're on rapid fire on these.
We're on rapid fire. So with that, let's end this episode. Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you, and thank you to everyone who helps us put this together.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Yes.
Hannah,
Michelle.